Hey guys. Hi guys, we're quickly reaching quorum. It's about 40 now. I had to use Rishi's login credential because I was waiting. I thought he would let me in, but that's why I was a couple of minutes late. We can start answering questions if anybody has questions at the onset. Remember, many answers are in the FAQ. The FAQ is posted on the entrepreneurship channel. It is pinned on the right side. If you don't see a column on the right side called pinned items, you can click on the pin below the title at the top. The title says shelter in place coding. Below that, there's a pin, if you click on it, then a right column comes up. The right column has pinned items, and pinned items has, first of all, every presentation from week 1. Number 2, videos from week 1, every video. Number 3, the FAQ and other important class information is posted there. The polls are also posted there, but the polls are not working anymore. The poll provider we use was flaky, so don't look at the polls. Everything else you can look at there. Any questions? How is your business plan preparation going? Are you guys making progress?
Yeah, I think in terms of progress, especially in the competitive front, like assessing who our competitors are and what makes us different from them, I think in that front we're doing pretty well.
Good, good. Yeah, that's a very important step. You will be rated on competitive analysis as a part of the evaluation by VCs and entrepreneurs. I will share with you in week 8 the judging criteria so that we have complete transparency on how you'll be judged so that you can prepare for it. I don't want to keep things secret because I'm going to give the judges a form and there will be criteria there. And I will share with you the criteria so that everybody has all information they need. Anybody else? How are you guys progressing with the business plan? So after today's class, you will start making rapid progress on the business plan because now you have something to start inserting. All of the homework that you've been providing to me, all of the questions that you've been asking and I've been answering on Slack, you can start slotting that information into the template. So I posted a PowerPoint version of the template in the entrepreneurship channel just now. Today's class, actually, I'm usurping. It was supposed to be an IP class, but I'm going to usurp most of it to actually walk you through the business plan template, because one of the things I realized last time was if I brought up the template at the very last class, people find it difficult to complete it in 2 weeks. So I want to give a little bit of a head start and start it 1 week earlier. So What I'll do is today I'll walk through the business plan template. In the remaining time, we will talk about IP. Remember, tomorrow we have another class. So in tomorrow's class, we'll go through the rest of the IP if we have time. I don't intend to cover all the IP topics because it's pretty advanced and based on the demographics, the target market, as we discussed last time, the demographics of the folks in this class, I don't intend to cover all of the slides any which way. So we should be good. So that's the other thing. Remember, tomorrow we have a class on Friday. We're going to do a rehash of all the classes. We are going to basically cover all topics. We come prepared with all your questions. We'll answer all questions. And tomorrow we'll also get you fully running on your business plan. And you will start seeing immediately how fun it is to start slotting your information into the plan. And you will start seeing how it starts to become complete. It comes to life. And you know what? It's such a great feeling when it starts coming to life. It's such a fulfilling feeling when you see all of the work you've done for the 7 weeks now coming together with a kind of the fruit of your labor. Yes, Pitch Fest. Someone asked a question. Is the Pitch Fest still on the 20th? Yes, that's the plan. We are inviting VCs as well as successful entrepreneurs as well as angel investors. Someone says they're doing good in the area of finance. That's great because most people have, you know, of all the areas, finance is one of the most troublesome areas. So, Sarah, glad to hear you're doing well with finance. Yes, every group will be going to the Pitch Fest as of now. That's my. If you have a business plan completed, if you have the full business plan, then there is no reason why you will not be at the Pitch Fest.
Mr. Seth?
Yes, Tarun.
So one of our members, if he wins his competition, then he cannot make it to the Pitch Fest. But if he doesn't, then he will make it. So in that case, should we just record his portion of the presentation?
Well, the Pitch Fest is where you win or lose. So I don't understand.
No. What I'm trying to say is, one of our teammates may or may not be able to make the Pitch Fest. Should we take a recording of his portion of the slides presentation and play it at the Pitch Fest?
Let's take that offline and discuss. Yeah. I see what you mean. Let's take that offline and discuss.
Sure.
We can make a plan specific to your case. Depends on what that person was pitching. I might just have the rest of the team take up and pitch, but make sure they attribute that this person was a part of a team and did a lot of work on it. I'm not sure what time the Pitch Fest is. I think it's in the main document. I think it was 2 o'clock. If I haven't, I have actually forgotten, but I think it's 2 o'clock on 20th. Any other questions before we get started? Do you guys still want the class tomorrow? Yes, the Pitch Fest is mandatory. If you don't finish the course, then you don't get the certificate. So if you want the certificate, then yes.
Okay. And say that we get selected by the VCs, will we actually be funded to create a real company?
That's up to you and the VCs if you can convince them to actually fund you. The Pitch Fest, someone has asked a question. Srishti. So the Pitch Fest is basically what we do in these 8 weeks, which culminates next week, is to help you develop the business plan, right? And starting today, we will start filling the template out. The Pitch Fest is basically you go up and you're given a certain amount of time. It's either 5 or 10 minutes, and you present that business plan. You're presenting the business plan actually to actual repeat entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, investors, VCs. and they will have a grading criteria by which they would grade your business plan. And so they grade how good is your idea, how good is the team, how good is your marketing plan, how good are your financials, etc. And so therefore, coming out of it, like Shark Tank, you will have basically feedback on your business plan from actual entrepreneurs and actual VCs.
And previously, you were saying that reviewing the homework will help you make your presentation.
Yeah, the homework that you submitted, basically you can start now cutting and pasting and inserting it into the template starting today.
Got it. And we can also like re-review the homeworks, right?
Tomorrow?
No, I mean on our own time. Like say like during our company meetings, would it be useful you think to like re-review the homeworks?
Sure, it's up to you. But if you want me to re-review it, I'm happy to as well. If you have, for example, pivoted, if you guys remember pivot, if you have pivoted or if you have kind of some different thinking, and I'm happy to re-review it too. Will we get specific instructions as to what specific time our group is going? I think you'll be required to be there for the 2 hours, and we will pick at random who goes. It'll literally be a random thing. But if you cannot stay for the whole thing, direct message me on Slack, and we can work something out. Where is the Pitch Fest located? It's online, like we're doing it today, but instead of me presenting, you will be presenting. Rishi, Pitch Fest is June 20th. Here. This is the master agenda. Okay, let's get going. Wait. One more thing. There are certain people still looking for groups. There's certain people still looking to either join a group or certain people who have a group of maybe 2 people where someone else can join. So please post at the entrepreneurship groups channel. Someone just posted just now to the entrepreneurship groups where they posted that they lost a member, and so 2 of them are available. I would suggest that if 2 of you are available, just invite someone else into your group. At this late in the game, I don't mind, since you are working with 3, I don't mind if you too just want to take an idea and take it forward. I don't mind that either. I know I had said that we will have minimum 3, but given it's not your problem because your 3rd group member left, I'm willing to consider if you too want to go. And I believe that was Anindya and Soumya. Anindya and Soumya?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, you heard me, right? I don't mind if you want to go by yourself, or if you can find someone to join you, that's fine too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so let's get started. So we are here towards the end. I hope I am bringing out in each of you your leadership skills, and more importantly, your entrepreneurial skills. Today's class, while it's very important for real life startups, it's a little advanced, as I mentioned. I am not going to be covering the whole topic, but I will publish this presentation. This presentation was put together by an an IT attorney called Mr. Bao Tran, who's also a friend of Rishi's. And he was very kind to put all of the materials together. And I think the materials are just phenomenal. Again, I will make it available for you guys to use. So thank you to Mr. Bao Tran for it. I added my pieces to it, but the core content in terms of the concepts is his. But before we go through, like always, let's recap, right? So week one was all about I'm a broken record. Who wants to, and you get to pick one. Who wants to revise week 1 for us?
I would like to revise week 1.
Okay, Tarun, you get one chance of the 6. So week 1, go for it.
So week 1 was about exploring your passion, maybe exploring the passions of the whole team, and finding unique ways to combine them. And you reviewed many businesses with us, such as Tom's Shoes, which was towards like helping the economy and selling shoes for people. Then that was the creative aspect, and then you have to think of certain problems that are like in our world today, such as like food insecurity and other things like that. And you need to use your passion, the creativity, and the problem to create the basic concept of your business.
Wonderful. That's spot on. Good job, Tarun. Thank you. Who wants to go week 2?
Can I go?
Yes, please, Lorenzo.
So week 2, we discussed the different characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. So they included some of those we talked about were leadership, hard work, and integrity. And we also talked about how that the businesses they created always had some social good aspect. So like Tarun said, I think Tom's Shoes gave back to their community, or stuff like that. So that's very important.
Yeah, spot on, Lorenzo. Thank you. Good job. That was totally spot on. The social good, as I have promised you, I'll be a broken record, and going back to Tom's Shoes that both Tarun and Lorenzo brought up, Tom's basically, for every shoe it sells, gives away a pair of shoes to a poor child who doesn't have any footwear. And so, it is very easy to have a great business and also do social good. It is not difficult. Most people misunderstand that if I have to become a big businessman, I have to really earn a lot of money, that I have to be very greedy. No, that's not the criteria. If you look at Bill Gates, if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, if you look at most successful entrepreneurs, Warren Buffett is on top of the list as well. They all give back. Warren Buffett has basically committed 90% of his wealth, which is over $50 billion, to humankind. Bill Gates and Melinda Gates and the work they do, they've pretty much dedicated 60% of their wealth and will do more, as they have said, to social good. And the work that they're doing in poor countries in bringing up people across the world is just phenomenal. Week 3, who wants to go? We are missing Pradyum today. Week 3. Arnav?
Okay, so you introduced the hacker way. You also told us about VCs. You introduced business plan. You also said things about Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Arnav. That was very good. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I merely asked the question, would you like to go? And Arnav stood up and did a great job. Thank you. That was spot on. The hacker way was basically Facebook's manifesto, Mark Zuckerberg's manifesto, which basically I would like each one of us to eat, breathe, live if we become startup founders, if we become entrepreneurs, because there's so much teaching in there as to how you can run fast, but also fail fast. And also talks about how you really have to engage yourself in your area of passion by having a mission. And Mark's mission being connecting the world, and how you have to stay maniacally focused on achieving a mission. So thank you, Arnav. Week 4, who wants to go? It starts to now get to what I call the more technical parts of Startup Land. The first 3 weeks were fun parts. learning about leadership and such. Does someone want to recap week 4 for us?
May I, sir?
Pradyum, you're back. Please.
Yeah, sorry, sir. I had a lot of problems connecting, so I'm sorry I'm late.
No worries, no worries. Yes, please, Pradyum.
Yeah. So in week 4, we talked about exit strategies and ways that we can convert private companies and open it to VC investment. So there are 2 ways that we can convert paper money into like true valuation. Either we can incorporate, or we can basically have the company acquired by another one, or we can basically make it public by opening the shares to a different stock options. So the VCs can basically pay for our shares, and we can basically dilute, and our shares will become more valuable over time. And this incorporation would normally happen in Delaware, because the Delaware laws for incorporating are much more easier and much more efficient for companies.
Perfect. And Pradyum, talk about pivot for a second.
Yes. So when we are building our basic startup, we have to know that one idea is not the only idea we will ever have. So as we continue to grow and develop in the process of building the startup, we will constantly we will constantly modify our original ideas and keep moving on. We want to change every single aspect of it as we want to improve on the design.
Perfect. Spot on. Perfect. Thank you, Pradyum, as always. Good job. Pradyum talked about how you can convert paper money to real money by being a successful startup. You can either sell the company or go public in the public markets, which is Wall Street. That's when your money really becomes green. Thank you, Pradyum. I know Jacob wants to do week 6. Sure. Who wants to do week 5?
Can I do it?
Yes, Sarah, please.
So on week 5, we basically just started talking more in depth about how your company is going to make money. So like it says profit equals sales minus cost. So that's when we kind of started learning about how the company will gain money.
Yes. Perfect. Anything else to add? Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. That was spot on. There are 2 equations that is all that matters for a company, whether small or large, whether 1 person or million person, as Walmart is, which is profit is equal to sales minus costs, which is your P&L statement. There are 2 financial statements that correlate to those 2 equations. The P&L is that. And then the second one is regarding your valuation, which is all about the assets that you possess. And a sum of your assets become your valuation. And the equation there is basically, at the end of the day, your valuation is driven by a share price, and your share price multiplied by the number of shares in your company is the Wall Street indicator of what your valuation is. So when people say that Apple is valued at $1 trillion, you can go and immediately see what the share price is, and you can figure out how many shares are outstanding, and you have that equation completely on the back of your hand in terms of valuing companies. We also discussed revenue models, where especially for the kind of ideas you guys are thinking about, which is apps, how you can look at subscription models or freemium models or other third-party based models where advertisements pay rather than the subscriber pays. Okay, week 6, Jacob, go for it.
We learned about the 4 P's, which are product placement, promotion, and place. And that's pretty much how you work your company. Target market is like who you want to target. And customer research is what the users or customers will think. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you, Jacob. The 4 Ps are the foundation of your marketing strategy / marketing plan. You guys did a phenomenal job. The most engagement I got last week, as well as feedback afterwards. For example, Tarun said this was his most favorite class. I got very good engagement last week because all of you latched on very well to how you will market your startup, and more than market, how you will build strategies based on the market for the product, which is the target market. All of you were able to articulate very well what your product does and the respective other 3 Ps. And then we discussed the value of always being customer-centric, how you can act like, think your customer. If you can think about that and build products, then you basically do a great job. So that was the 6 weeks. And then business plan, and I'm going to jump right into it as I promised. Your business plan basically has these 8 components, which is what you will need to fill out and get the VCs excited about your startup at PitchFest. So without much ado, I'm going to jump into the business plan template. Okay. Okay, here we go. If there is anything you pay attention to in the 7 weeks, pay attention to this, and you've done really well, because this one gives you basically a very easy way to start slotting your stuff in. And if you've done your homework every week, your business plan is nearly ready, because you can start slotting what you've sent to me into each one of these slides, and lo and behold, you will see that the baby is ready to be born. Isn't that exciting? Okay. So for all of you that submitted, about 14 teams submitted your homework. Thank you. Thank yourself, you did that too, because here it goes. So business plan. So business plan has these components. Won't belabor it. Okay, so this business plan template, again, please fill in the sections and you'll be done. This business plan is a template. It's very important for me to overlay to you guys that I use this with pretty much every startup founder. Whether a founder has founded 2 startups and this is the 3rd, or whether it's a first-time founder, I have helped over 100 companies, and every startup founder I help, I have used this template, right? It is basically adapted from Guy Kawasaki, who's a very famous entrepreneur, from the 10-20-30 principle as well. Remember we talked last week about 10-20-30, how you should not be verbose in your slides, how you have to have bullet points, and how you make sure that it has only materials that are guiding and not what you're reading from it. I'm glad you remember. So that's the 10-20-30 principle. The 10-20-30 principle is 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30 points. You can go a couple of slides more. Most startup teams go slightly over because they want to overlay something that they're really good at. Mostly it happens to be technology, but sometimes people spend a little bit more on financials because it's important. Financials is very important, but I'll leave it to you. I'm not
so just a quick question.
Yes, Pradyum.
Will it be a problem if we are in the process, or we are nearly completing the financials and marketing and all those other aspects, but we're not done with it yet?
Yeah, no problem. You have 3 more weeks to complete it.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you missed the first part, Pradyum. We talked about basically what I do is after the 8 weeks are done, I give folks this template, and I usually find that then it becomes kind of an anxiety laden time that they have to quickly finish it. So this time I decided to introduce it much earlier, this template. So you have 4 weeks to finish it. Okay. So then the last thing as a setup is before you pitch to VCs, if you remember last week, we also did how to pitch effectively. You have to always uncover and think about your audience, think about who the audience is, what their buttons are. And guess what? As I told you, next week, I will be sharing with you the judging criteria. I have a form that my judges use. And the judges will basically rate you in each of those areas for a total score of 100. So now you know the hot buttons, because you know what you need to score in each one of those areas to get the maximum of 10 points for each of those areas. So you can add up to a score that is closest to 100, so you can win, right? So I will empower you with the hot buttons, but you have to start also thinking. So these guys are repeat entrepreneurs, they are VCs, they see entrepreneurs every day. They will surely be looking at the efficacy of the business. They will be surely looking at the Remember, teams. VCs invest in teams, so they'll be looking at how well you guys are working with each other, how well you are gelling. Is someone overstepping on someone else and taking all the credit? Guess what? You will get underrated if you do things like that. Okay. The presentation would be 5 to 10 minutes. I have yet to decide with Rishi how much it is. Last few times we have done 5 or 10 minutes. Assume 5 minutes, but be ready for 10. Either which way, if you follow what I mentioned last time, is on each slide, if you cover the 3 biggest points, remember I said top 3, top 3, top 3. If you cover top 3 points in any given slide, you are easily done in 5 minutes, okay? Okay, so here we go. Your slide number 1 is an executive summary. And in my history of working with startups, a lot of people don't get this right. They mostly in executive summary will post one of the 4 Ps or even the 4 Ps. And most people get that right, but it's not about the 4 Ps, because it's also about the business value, right? So basically your company is what you specialize in and who is it for. So the 4 Ps is the first bullet. But then you start talking about your special sauce. What gives you the unique advantage? How can you capture market share as one example? You don't have to talk about market share. You can talk about building a profitable business, right? And then lastly, how much money are you looking? So as a VC, the first thing they'll ask is, oh, how much are you raising? And you can say, look, I'm raising $500,000 and that will go for the next 2 years. And that will allow me to build the product as well as sell it to my first 10 customers. That's great. Very few people get the executive summary right. I will work with you to get it well polished. The next slide is, now start thinking about those components, those 8 components. So what's the problem, right? And most people here don't get it right here too. This is a very basic slide. Most people here don't talk about the problem, but start talking about the solution. You have to be able to dissect what the big problem is in that area where you have an idea. Only if the VCs can gravitate their mind towards saying that, yeah, looks like this is a big problem and these guys have good wherewithal to solve it, will they be interested in the rest of your presentation, right? So if you come and say, look, I'm trying to, there is this great idea I had, but you're not able to articulate what problem you're trying to solve, then the idea basically gets very diluted, right? So key things to think about here is the seriousness of the problem. If you can quantify it better, but at least qualify it, desired future state. So if your product is launched and it's accepted, then how will the problem be solved? Start attacking that. Just put a few bullet points. Graphics are better than words always, remember. Then we latch into, I will pause after the slide for questions because it's a flow, right? So then naturally you go into what's your solution, right? And this is where your 4P comes in, right? This is where you start to describe your solution, your key benefits, the key features. You don't necessarily go into the promotion side of it. That comes in the marketing slide. But at least this is where you clearly and concisely describe your product and the key benefits, key features, why it'll make the problem that you presented. And guess what? Most people get this right. Greater than 70% of the presenters do this well, right? So you know, most people know how to articulate the idea. They don't know how to articulate the other aspects to it, what problem you're trying to solve as well. Okay, so I'll pause here. If there are any questions, are you guys starting to get how this template will allow you to kind of delete this verbiage and start inserting your own? Are you able to? Yeah, go ahead, Tarun.
I have a question. We did some research and we're targeting a market that isn't exactly concise, but it's a big like looming problem over like the US and the world.
Yeah, good. You have to describe that in this slide. So delete all my verbiage and start putting in your own problem statement here. And if it's a big problem, the better. Bigger the problem, the better it is. The VCs get more excited. Any other questions? Do you all feel that you've nailed this? Because every week I ask you in your homework, the first 2 bullet points are the same every time, which is basically this, the first 2 slides.
What is a roadmap?
A roadmap, good question, Arnav. So a roadmap is, so when you have a vision for a product, you cannot launch the entire product right away. So one team is doing basically taking pictures of recyclable items, and basically you send it to the server, and the server gives you ideas on how you can use that for art. They also have the idea that it can tell you whether this is recyclable or not and where it should go in terms of recycling. So this team in their first version may be able to do the art idea, but the second part may be in the roadmap to do maybe 6 months after. So roadmap gives you basically a phased approach to how you will accomplish the whole solution, because no one, not iPhone 1 was iPhone 10, right? It did not have all of the features. So you always have kind of, okay, we're going to attack this first, and then thereafter we will attack these features. That's the roadmap.
Thanks.
Good question. Any other questions, observations? Do you agree that this is easy to do, but this is difficult to do, and this is also difficult to do? Does anybody disagree with my percentages at the bottom in terms of very few people get this one and this one right? Okay, we have a quiet group today, but I do appreciate each of you helping me with the recap. You guys did a great job. Yeah, Krishna? I'm sorry? Okay. I thought Krishna had a question or something to say. Never mind. Jacob, did you want to say, did you have an observation?
Sorry, that was an accident.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so now you've kind of gotten away with the first 3 weeks of the course. Okay, so now we start where the rubber meets the road, as we said. So now you start to describe your solution, right? This is where you go into details about, you know, your roadmap. In the first slide, you just introduce that. No, wait. Sorry, I spaced. So we already talked about solution and roadmap. So the next one is, what's the business model, right? So this is where you start to get the VC excited that not only is it is a big problem, but your product can achieve a good business value from it, right? So this was one of your homework, if you remember. Explain how you're going to make money, right? Describe basically how you're going to make money, advertising or whatever. This is where you set up for the VCs to start getting excited from a financial perspective. Kanika, yes, I have pinned the PowerPoint on the entrepreneurship channel. Each of you will download the PowerPoint and start filling it up and then upload it to Google Slides so that you can start sharing with me and we can start working on it together. I can start helping you. Okay, then the next one is, what is your special sauce? So what gives you the ability to solve it, right? A lot of times in the Silicon Valley, this is technology. So you have invented a unique AI algorithm that basically allows you to match from a backend database objects that basically, let me use another example. You have a great AI-based algorithm that allows you to look at a person's investments and look at all of their net assets in terms of cash and stock and bonds, etc., and allows the system to build an investment model for each individual investor, however rich they are, however poor they are. And so you have to now start talking about your technology. You have to start talking about whether you patented it, or is it patentable? This is very unique to you, or is it something that has been solved by anybody and everybody, right? So again, this slide gets the VC excited about the technology. Now we get into week 6 class, which is how are you going to market and sell your product or service? This is where you start talking about your marketing strategy. You explain the rest of the P's. You talk about the target market. You talk about marketing strategies and sales strategies. Like a lot of you in your homework to me have said that you're going to gain customers by advertising on other sites or even search advertising. This is where you start putting those things in. Again, 50% of the people get this right? Special sauce, 30%, less than 30% of people get it right. Any questions, comments, observations till this point?
Yes. How will the judging points work?
Yeah, so I will give you the judging criteria next week. Generally, what happens is that there are these areas that the judges are asked to score out of 10, and the areas are, how good is the idea, how good is your product strategy, how good is your technology strategy, how good is your marketing strategy, have you analyzed the competition, and is the competition, do they think that you can overcome the competition, etc. And the judges will basically value your presentation on each of those areas out of 10. So you may get 10 out of 10 for analyzing the competition, but you may get 5 out of 10 because you didn't quite lay out the marketing plan well. I'm not saying you, Tarun, but as an example. So that's how it will work in terms of grading. And again, very specific grading criteria I will share with you next week.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Just 2 quick questions. So the very first one is, in terms, if we've already started making the presentation without referring to this, would you recommend that we restart the entire presentation but then save all of the content?
No, it's totally up to you. I mean, if as long as, look, if you follow this slide set, you would have covered all the pieces of the puzzle. If you remember the first couple of weeks where we talked about the puzzle is not complete without all the pieces. If you follow this template, you would have all the pieces needed for the VC to evaluate you. But if you have a presentation of your own, please refer to this and check whether you have covered all bases. I'm okay with you having your own presentation. What was the second question?
Okay. The second question was, sir, do we have to only use PowerPoint, or can we use any other sort of method to solve this?
Well, I would suggest you use Google Slides, particularly because we will get all of the presentations.
That's what we were using.
Yeah. That's what I said. So once you download this and you start filling it out, I would expect you to upload it to Google Slides so that then you can also share with me so that I can start helping you complete your business plan.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, look, we'll have one computer that
and
will have all
the final
slides.
presentation.
I'm sorry?
And the final presentation will be on the slides, correct? When we are presenting
Correct.
it to the VCs, we'll be presenting for our slides, which we shared with you.
Correct.
All right, perfect.
Good. Okay. Any other questions, observations, thoughts? Anything at all? Okay. So remember, I said competition and analysis of competition is really important. Most of the startup founders I help, they have the competition in their head, but they are unable to really qualify them in a succinct manner where it lays out for the VC that there is competition. I've heard innumerable presentations, over 100 of them, where the founder comes and says, yeah, we don't think we have much competition. And every one of those 100 people, the VC has laughed in their mind. every one of those. But I see this time and time again, time and time again. You know, someone will come and say, look, I have a new app. I don't think anybody is doing it. This is really unique. And it could be in your mind, but if you look, I'm sure you'll find something. And even if you can't find something, there'll be conjoint ideas that kind of, sort of help you do what you're trying to do, but in a different way, in which case you have to qualify it in your competition, saying that we think that these people, if they add certain features, they can be our competition, but as of now, they don't directly compete. That is way better than saying that, we don't have any competition, right? That is surely, I can tell you, the VC will tell you to, if they had the power, if they were rude, I'll surely tell you, they'll ask you to, at that point, saying that please get up and leave. Some of them I've seen are rude. Quite honestly, I've seen some VCs be rude and say, you know what, this is, I don't think I want to spend another 30 minutes. I have some work to do. I have to run, sorry. I have seen that happen quite a bit, by the way. Some of the VCs can be very rude. Anyway, and then remember I said, VCs invest in teams because as Pradyum reminded us, any idea that you start up with is never, ever, ever the idea that you end up with. You always pivot. And the VC has to be very confident in looking at the team and the composition of the team, looking in their eyes and saying that, look, you know, even if this core idea that they have doesn't succeed, I have faith in this team that if I give them money and they run with it, they're going to pivot and bring up something that will really fly, right? And this number will be surprising to you. Less than 10% of the presenters get this well. Most startup founders, when they present the slide, they list the people and they list their titles. So they'll have, okay, I am XYZ, I'm CEO, and I have with me this guy, ABC, who is CTO. VCs are not interested in that. They're not interested in title. They're interested in saying that why ABC has the technical chops to invent and build something like this. Why, you know, XYZ can run such an enterprise. Why, you know, another person has the ability to really understand the landscape and build the right product in terms of building the product roadmap. So focus on identifying this. And then a lot of times it also helps saying that, look, we are a founding team. We don't have all the skills. We really have, for example, maybe marketing is a whole. And we'll be, after we raise the round of funding, we'll be looking for a chief marketing officer. It's okay to say that. But you have to say that. Otherwise, the VC will assume that you have a full team. And then this is really, I think, the toughest slide for especially you students, as I've helped you guys in these last 3-4 years. How do you build a P&L? And how do you show to a VC that you have a justifiable P&L, right? This is where you, if you remember your homework, you talked about your high-level revenue and your high-level costs. You talked about sales and what you can achieve in the first, second, third year. And you also talked about your costs. This is where you start slotting them in. And then usually, I would say bottoms up is better than top-down approaches of forecasting. And I will go through, one sec, Jacob. I will go through tomorrow, top-down versus bottom-up forecasting. If you remember, it was in the financial slides. If you want, you can go and see the slides. I have a slide that talks about these approaches, but tomorrow's session, I will walk through a little bit more of forecasting, because I think this is a tough thing for you guys to grasp. Jacob, you go first, and then Advika after in terms of your question.
What does P&L stand for?
P&L is one of those two statements we talked about. If you remember, balance sheet was one, and profit and loss.
I think it's profit and loss.
Profit and loss, basically, Jacob. Advika?
Okay. I don't have a question.
Okay, I saw you go off mute, so I thought you might have a question. Any comment? Okay, no worries. Again, we'll go through this tomorrow. This is one of the areas that I want to revise or rehash, where I feel it's complex for you guys. Okay. And then the status and timeline. Just give the VC after you walk through the various components of the business plan, where do you stand? And you can say that, look, we already started developing the app, or you can say, look, we have our patent filed, but now we're going to get started with the development. Or you can say, look, we have a prototype and we are going to start developing it further. Or you can say, look, we already developed an app, version 1, we're going to go, the first step would be to pilot it, right? And then apart from that, also show a set of milestones that you're going to achieve, right? And it could be, say, in 6 months, we will have a full-blown version. In 2 years, we'll have the second version, something like that, right? So just put together, overlay your roadmap that you have talked about it, which was more feature-centric. This one is more of a status and timeline of the company's progress, right? So this one could also be that we will look to raise our second round of funding in 1 year, right? That's also a major milestone, right? And you can see how it differs from your product roadmap. And that's about it. A lot of times the VCs will have questions, and when they do, what I would do is I would ask you to put up the executive summary slide up as they ask questions, because this basically is a summary of your entire business plan. And then when a VC asks a question, one of the team members, based on who has worked the most in that area. So suppose a technology question, then the CTO answers the question. If it is a sales marketing question, then maybe the CEO answers the question. If it is an operations question, then you get the gist. So then we close it out and your business plan is ready. Pretty simple, huh? To start slotting your homework in. Now you can see how I have carefully crafted the homework each week so that you guys have made tremendous progress already on your business plan. Ta-da, right? What questions do you have? I know I went through this really fast. I know it's difficult to grasp in the one go. We will rehash it tomorrow. Yes, there is class tomorrow at 5 p.m.
For the status and timeline slide, how does that apply to us, given that like the main stuff that we've done is building the actual business plan?
Yeah, I'm okay if you guys say that in your major milestones that June 2020, business plan developed, raised first round of funding. And then you can extrapolate from there and say 3 months, so July, August, September, October, prototype of product launch or pilot of the first version of product launch. Then you can say 6 months from there, version 1 of the product launch. Then you can say 1 month from today, so June 2021, we will raise our second round of funding. You have to extrapolate based on what you can achieve.
So it's more like, in our case, it would be more about our timeline for the future rather than what we've done in the past.
Correct.
In that case, right?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
So for our competition, do you suggest that we gather all the information about our competitors, and following up on that, do we take the information and analyze it and condense it so it's readable by the VCs?
Yeah, what I would suggest is if you can do a very small table with competitive analysis and qualify each competitor, saying that these guys have a similar solution and we believe that if they focus and they can build what we're trying to do, or some other qualification, the more realistic you are, the better. The more believable your case is. I don't like you guys reading from the slides, and I'm doing exactly that, but it's important.
So, excuse me, sir, just a quick question.
Yes, Pradip.
Yes, so for the overall presentation, would you recommend that these 8 components would be put into 8 slides in total?
Yes. So I would suggest that you have 1 slide each on these topics. And then if you have to go over on certain things, sometimes people go over on the business model. Sometimes your special sauce may have a second slide that talks about IP. It's okay, but try to keep within these. I would prefer you have one slide each for each of these.
So if we do have one slide each, then how will it cover at least 3 topics? Because then we would be covering a total of 8 topics.
Yes, so if you realize the business plan where we talked about these, all of these are now covered in these slides.
Correct. So we will pick like at most the top 3 of these, and then we will explain them, but then we will want to go over all 8 of them in one slide each.
No. These 8 are already covered in the template. So if you look at what's the problem and solution, it's a problem statement solution to the problem. If you look at business model, that's the third component, business model. So what I'm saying is these 8 components are already featured in the template. If you start filling up each one of these slides with your own content, you have a completed business plan. Does that make sense, Pradyum?
Yes, that makes perfect sense, sir.
Good.
Can we put the team slide earlier so they can like understand like who's talking to them more, like introduce ourselves before the product, or does that not make sense?
No, you can play around, move the slides as you want. Generally what happens is when you present, and this is more face-to-face presentations, you go up and your first slide is kind of the title slide, right? Something like this. And you say, hi, this usually one of you gets up and says, hello, my name is this, and I'm a rising sophomore at Saratoga High or whatever, and I'm the CEO of this. And then the other 2 or 3 people speak up and saying, I'm the CEO of that. And that's how you get started, generally, when it was face-to-face. Now that it's going to be online, we should think about how best to do it. I like your idea, Lorenzo, that given that this is kind of less conversational, it may make sense to move the team slide up front. Again, you can play around with the order. I don't care.
Can I ask a question?
So someone asking a question, why does it say 20 minutes? It says 20 minutes because this is a real life template that actual entrepreneurs use to pitch to VCs. And I always prepare them saying that finish your core presentation in 20 minutes, because there'll be a lot of peppering with questions that the VC takes the rest of the 40 minutes in an hour long meeting with the VC. So that's why it says, this is something that you will carry with your life, I hope. And you will thank me when you fill this up with a real life idea in the future, as many founders use this. That's why I say it's 20 minutes.
Okay, so our presentations are 20 minutes each?
No, your presentation will be 5 to 10 minutes. So you have to hurry through it. Again, use the top 3 points in each slide and move on. For example, this financial projection slide, you can use 10 minutes to walk through each one of the pieces. Okay, revenue for the first year is this, revenue for the second year is this, revenue. If you do those, you're basically going to take 10 minutes to do just this. But if you focus on the top 3 points in a slide and say, okay, we believe that, it gets us 3 years of good runway and revenue, with us starting to show profitability in third year, as you see in our table, we think that this is a very viable business idea. Boom, you're done. You've made 3 points and you move to the next slide. How long did that take? 20 seconds.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Sarah?
Is it good if you have no competition, or is it bad since like nobody's gonna search up like in the App Store for something like that since it hasn't been made yet?
Yeah, so as I was saying before, I don't think there is anybody who doesn't have competition. I'll challenge you. So if you search hard, there will be competition. So if you see my slide and you read it, the first line says there is always competition. Jacob, the class is not over because I do intend to cover IP for just a couple of minutes. We'll continue tomorrow with IP. You're welcome, Jacob. Okay, good. I think you guys will now start to feel good, I hope, because you're now armed with how you can convert all of the work you've done for 7 weeks and start, how the life comes to shape, comes to fruition, right? So I'm excited that you guys are there. I'm excited because by the quality of your homework and how diligent you guys have, I believe that you guys will quickly latch onto this. And if you don't, I'm there to help. I respond to every Slack message that you direct message me, and I try to respond within a couple of hours, if not within minutes. I hope you guys see that. I will continue to do that. I will help you get over and help you in any which way I can. Okay. Do we want to talk about IP, or should we talk more about question and leave IP for tomorrow? I already see people are dropping off.
I would say maybe tomorrow because everybody thinks that right now it's like the end of class, and I think right now if you take questions, there might be a lot of questions to answer, and also
Okay, sounds good.
So you can save time next class.
I'll post the IP slides also on Slack, so those people interested in looking at them before the class, feel free to do that. Sorry, I couldn't cover, but this was very important for me to get you guys comfortable. I could sense anxiety in a few teams, few people, as to how is this all going to come together. I hope now you realize how it comes together seamlessly, easily. Just very quickly, if there are no questions, intellectual property basically covers three or four things, and those 3 or 4 things are patents, trademarks, trade secrets, and copyrights. And I will send these slides out so that you guys can start reading about each one of those. Any other questions, observations, feedback, anything at all? Nothing? Come on, there has to be some. I see people dropping off, so I'm ready to call it a wrap. Thank you all. I hope you guys feel empowered now to be able to get your business plan churning. Thank you all for your time. Thank you. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Bye, guys.
So just a very quick question pertaining our individual startup, if I may ask.
Yes, please.
So we have a slight error over here. We have all of the content as per the different pieces of the puzzle, but it's all put together in far more than 10 slides. So would you recommend we work on cutting it down?
Yes, I would definitely recommend you cutting it down. You have 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to present. Either which way, I don't like 2 verbose slides. Remember the 10, 20, 30 rule, or whatever that was, I'm forgetting.
Yes, the graphics speak the words. Let 1,000 words be conveyed through the graphics.
That's right. So yeah, go ahead.
So yes, we will work on that. We'll work on cutting it down over there. It's just that the content for each piece of the puzzle can not really be fit in one slide, but I think we can probably do it if we cut down the unnecessary portions.
Got it. Good point.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll share it with you so we can also get some feedback on your side as well.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Shreya.
So I had a quick question. So in the in the entire slideshow presentation, towards the beginning of the slides, when we first introduce the problem that we're trying to solve and like our mission statement and our vision for the future, don't we have to actually include like some prototyping issues that we dealt with throughout our project?
Yeah, so if you go to the business plan template and you talk about, there's a secret sauce slide, which basically talks about your technological challenges and your how you overcome them. That's where you bring it in.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna call it a wrap unless anybody has questions. Always feel free to direct message me on Slack. I will respond as soon as I can. Thank you all. Have a good evening.